I have a right to stand. I have a right to stand in court. I have a right to stand in court.
Mr. Govan. No, they don't want to stay on these.
This is Kwahuru Govan being charged with the murder of 19-year-old Rashawn Brazell. In 2005, Rashawn went missing on Valentine's Day. His body was dismembered. His body parts were found days after his disappearance in garbage bags inside a Brooklyn subway tunnel. The bag is significant because Govan's ex-wife expected to testify that she owned the bag at some point prior to Brazell's death.
Just a block away, crime scene investigators hovered over a black garbage bag in a cart. Police say a man's body inside.
And she gave it to her husband. There was a witness who knows the victim from school who saw him being stabbed by two individuals on a subway platform. Some of Rashawn's remains were found at a garbage transfer station, but his head was never recovered.
I think they never recovered his upper part.
I never got his head back.
Yeah.
One of the investigators on the case said Rashawn was cut up with some kind of precision. Someone who had knowledge of anatomy. Kwahuru lived at 1104 Gates Avenue across the street from Rashawn. Police said they received information that Govan considered Rashawn's homosexuality an abomination.
His sexual orientation has nothing to do with why he was killed. It's way deeper and it's way more personal than him being gay. There was some type of beef that no one knew about. Whatever beef there was, it went beyond, it went above and beyond everyone's head, and no one really knew because Rashawn did not ever really speak of it.
Rashawn was supposed to take his mother out to dinner for the holiday.
What does Valentine's Day mean to you now?
Nothing. Valentine's Day is dead to me.
Instead, he would leave his mother's apartment in Bushwick and never return. The case went cold for 13 years, but his mother, Rashawn Brazell, would do her best to keep his name in the news for years. Rashawn was only 19 when his life was taken by 38-year-old Kwahuru Govan. Rashawn's mother said he once aspired to be a social worker to help homeless people, a job that she had held in Washington Heights when he disappeared. Kwahuru Govan was described as a moody man. According to those who knew him, he was a good father to his two kids, but he was no stranger to crime and violence. Court records would show that Govan was in and out of trouble with the law since he was 18. He was known to strangle, rape, mutilate, and murder his victims. At least one victim was tied, bound, or otherwise restrained during the crime. After his release from prison in 2016, Kwahuru's previous arrests in Brooklyn included robbery, assault, burglary, and weapons possession from 1996 to 2010. Authorities later found a journal in his possession that contained a sketch of a chair designed to restrain women during sexual encounters. Govan called the chair a sex pod. In his journal entries, Kwahuru was an active serial killer from 14 years between 2004 to 2017.
And is also facing murder charges for the 2004 dismemberment of 17-year-old Sharabia Thomas. His arrest solving two cold case murders within a few months.
Sharabia Thomas was just 17 years old, snatched off the street, bound and strangled on her way to school in 2004. Police later found her naked body stuffed in laundry bags in a nearby alley.
In 2019, defense attorneys for Govan said he had an alibi. Govan said he was training to be a truck driver in St. Louis during the week of Brazell's murder.
This particular perpetrator has been all over the country. He's been in Florida, he's been in California. We will go forward with that, any other case that might fit these parameters.
During the June 19 hearing, Layla Rosini, a senior assistant district attorney, said, "We do have that he did not complete the school. The limited records they had verified he was enrolled in the program and was credited with a significant number of hours that week." While statements made in the court indicate that the records do not definitely place Govan in St. Louis at the time of Brazell's murder, The records at least suggest that the prosecution may have to explain a more complex timeline for the killing, and the defendant traveled from St. Louis to Brooklyn to commit the murder. In November 2016, Rashawn's accused killer, Kwahuru Govan, was arrested for armed robbery, and his DNA profile was added to a national criminal database. He was linked to another cold case, the 2004 murder of Sharabia Thomas. Sharabia was 17. The cold case squad retested her fingernail scrapings and learned the DNA was a match with Govan. He was released from a Florida prison on an armed robbery conviction around the same time. Sharabia disappeared on her way to a field trip.
You know, my sister was a fighter. You definitely picked the wrong person. Words cannot express the pain and anguish my family and I have endured since my sister's death. The fact that someone like you can take the life of a human being with no regard is unimaginable.
Sharabia Thomas lived in Gates Avenue, 2 blocks away from Kwahuru Govan and Rashawn Brazell. The investigation determined that Sharabia did not go to school that day and was last seen alive earlier that morning when her siblings left for school. Sharabia suffered blunt force trauma to her head, face, and torso, and had visible ligature marks on her wrists and ankles.
But he refused to be fingerprinted and had to be physically dragged into court, where he threatened the judge.
Do you hear that, people? Just because I don't want to be printed, that gives them the right to assault me, to punch me in my face. Wow. Is that what America's come to? Is that what President Trump would allow? I don't think you'll be sitting on that bench very long, Your Honor.
The cause of death was determined to be asphyxia by neck compression. There was no evidence of sexual assault. Her body was discovered on the afternoon of February 11, 2004, inside 2 laundry bags on the side of an alleyway adjacent to 130 Palmetto Street in Bushwick. Govan pleaded with the judge for leniency, insisting that he is an innocent man who was framed. The fact that Kwahuru Govan was caught was considered a miracle. Kwahuru Govan was caught because a neighbor contacted Mary Murphy, a film producer, through her Facebook page. The neighbor, Taisha Davidson, was always bothered that Sharabia Thomas's case was unsolved. She remembered Thomas as the middle girl in a family of 3 sisters who were always together. Taisha was moved to contact Pix 11 after seeing their report publicized. After seeing a report on a better publicized cold case murder, Taisha thought the case had similarities to Sharabia's. Kwahuru told the judge, "I have lost family as well. My grandmother, my uncle, even my cousin." That very cousin he was referring to was Rashawn. Kwahuru Govan was convicted of second-degree murder. He was arrested on November 14, 2016, convicted on September 7, 2018, sentenced to 25 years to life in prison, awaiting 1 sentencing and 1 trial for a murder from 2005 at Attica Correctional Facility in Attica.
Found in 2005 at this waste transfer station, and a female
And restrained. Contusions about her body. Until he agreed to be fingerprinted. He arrived.
I'm innocent, I've been framed.
You think that he might be a serial killer?
We're charging with two murders, Mary, so there's a great possibility that might be.
Strangled me. Felt like I remember the voice.
Detectives that he did live near the victim at the time of the crime, but he did not know her.
DNA is not infallible because there are people who process it, there are people who take it.
He could face 25 years to life in prison for murder and kidnapping. But Govan left court with the same confidence in his innocence as when he arrived.
I'm innocent, I've been framed.
But as the case reopens 12 years later, Sharabia's family believes believes there's a chance for closure.
People that get caught from DNA is not, they didn't get framed. You can't frame someone from DNA.